Hello and welcome to Mum's Work and Chaos with me, Louise. They say it takes a village to raise a child, so let me help you build yours. During this journey, I'll be learning about everything from neurodiversity in children's literature through to body image post-pregnancy. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of Mum's Work and Chaos. Today we're on location at Chicken and Frog Bookshop here in Brentwood with my wonderful friend Tash, who not only owns this amazing indie bookshop but also used to be a primary school teacher. Today we're going to be talking about how you can support your child starting primary school, particularly those who are neurodivergent, whether that's autism, ADHD, dyslexia and the such. We'll also be going through some of Tash's book recommendations to help your child get ready for school. Tash.
Hello.
Basically I wanted to get you on because we've done a podcast before talking about neurodiverse representation in children's books, and you recommend our podcast as well, saying that they've looked into getting the books for their schools.
Oh, cool.
Personally as well. And then a friend of a friend who's a nursery nurse has also bought a couple of books so she can, because she's about to go on a course, helping recognise neurodivergence in a nursery setting as well.
Well, that makes me happy. So there's
Yes.
not enough training for teachers.
No.
That's really good.
Yeah, so she's really lucky, but I just wanted to say thank you for a start for coming on in the first place, and obviously people have found that particular episode really interesting, so that's great. So we're coming up to starting school. It's a big transition, especially if you haven't been in childcare previously. So if you're a child who's been in a home setting and not gone to preschool or nursery and things like that, it's a big adjustment, isn't it?
It's massive.
So how might we be able to support our children who are starting school? Because even from a nursery perspective, you might be going full-time, not have holiday breaks and things as well, so actually even getting used to having a half term and things like that is a lot. How would you start introducing the idea of school and the transition from whichever setting they're in to starting in a school environment?
Oh goodness. That's such a hard question, isn't it? I mean, the main thing really is if the school that they're going to be starting in hopefully would have had by now your taster days, and it is so important that you do those, even if they're a faff. And sometimes they can be a faff. It's I haven't really got time for this, but it's such a good idea. If for whatever reason you've not managed to do that, and we've only got about a week to go now, it is worthwhile still contacting those schools and saying, look, I couldn't make that, but I really would like my child to see the school, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Failing all of that, and this sounds really silly, but start practicing your journey with your child. So if you're going to be walking, then do the walk with them in the summer. If you're going to be driving, do that drive to get them used to that route. And that's for all children, neurotypical and neurodiverse, to be honest, because it's just such a big change of routine. But especially, I think, if you're walking or they're going to be scooting, which, let's face it, takes an awful lot longer than even crawling does, because you spend half your life going back for the thing. But all of those things to practice, this is where we're going to cross the road together, and you might be able to make a route where they then meet up with some other friends. So that's a real part of their journey. I think that's so important. Failing all of that, if you can't get to the school for whatever reason, and we're all so busy, all schools have great websites now. So really look at the website with your child, looking at pictures of the different settings. So this is what the classroom looks like at this school. This is what your playground is going to look like, and have those conversations about each different place of school. And this is where you're going to be having your lunch, because that's a massive thing. That's such a big social thing. And for lots of children, it's so loud and can be so overwhelming. So to have those conversations, and possibly even, this sounds really weird, but this is one of my top tips and it does really help, is take them somewhere like Lakeside or somewhere like that that's got a food hall where it's super noisy and slightly chaotic a couple of times between now and when you start school, so if you haven't been to that kind of place before, so they can get used to the fact that they have to wait for their food and that it's loud, because that can be really difficult for some children. And then there's things called social stories. So children who are neurodivergent, you may have things in place already if you've got one plan for your child, because you can get, or an EHCP, you can get those things before they start school in some cases. So the social story is basically It's a story, shocker. But it's one that you can make up. So you can have like print out pictures of the school, even like print out pictures of their uniform, anything that you think that they might be finding a little bit tricky. And it's really, really simple. So you have a picture of the school. This is your new school. And then the next page is, this is a picture of your teacher. Lots of websites for schools have pictures of the staff for that very reason. So they can start to familiarise themselves, and that can be their little book that they can look at whenever they want. All those things are really useful.
We actually did quite a lot of that when my eldest, Usta, was starting school. She's 7 now. But when she started in reception, we were actually in lockdown, which was really weird. So already it was a very strange situation. We hadn't had a taster day before we started at the school. So we just started with those transition days, which is a lot. And we also thought at the time that she was neurotypical, which we now know that she's not. But also now knowing again that I'm not neurotypical, it made a lot of sense that I did a lot of those things with her, because I have to plan these things in my head. So like working out where we were going to park, working out how we were going to walk to school, how long the walk to school was from the furthest place that we would have to park.
And it will always be double whatever you've anticipated, because 100%. They'll find a leaf along the way, for example, or their shoe doesn't fit quite right, or so many things. So give yourselves double, because that stress, if you are a parent, and there are parents, for whatever reason, the running late parents, it's the worst feeling, because you drop your child off, they're a little bit anxious by then, you're super stressed, and then you feel stressed all day. I've just thought of something else, uniform. And I'm saying this as a former teacher of reception, please, for the love of God, will you practice getting your child, them getting themselves in and out of their uniform into their PE kit? Because genuinely, the first time I had reception, we spent nearly the whole PE lesson. They just got into their uniform. They got out of their uniform, they got into their PE kit. I think we had 5 minutes in the hall, and then we had to come back, and the carnage of getting them then back into their uniforms. Oh, that's not your sock, darling, that's someone else's. No, you're wearing your jumper backwards. And I know those things are really difficult, and they sound so obvious, but I think parents of little ones, and I know I did it as well a long time ago, for the sake of ease, when you're at home, you're like, let me just put this on you. And that's great. But actually, they need to learn how to do some of those things themselves. You've got a very long 6 weeks ahead of you. Practice. Make it into a game if you want. You can, whatever you want, and you can practice as well with them. There's a brilliant trick of them putting their coat on the floor. Have you seen that? It's so cool.
I'm really lucky.
Stick their arms into it, flip it over the head, and it goes on. Ta-da!
So the nursery that my youngest two go to is Montessori nursery, so they promote as much independence as possible. And so when my middle one was 18 months old, she came home and showed me how to put her coat on in exactly that way. 18 months. And now my 20-month-old does it, and not only that, she could put her shoes on the right feet. Both of them can. It's amazing.
So honestly, I know that. I'm saying it as a joke, but honestly, it's really important. And also, just things like if they've got a PE bag, which they probably have, practicing that. So you take your uniform, you take your PE kit out, you take your uniform off, put it in your PE bag, because that will save them the stress, and your teacher the stress for probably about an hour of looking for a tie. Practicing those really practical things, but doing it in really fun ways. And by the time they get there, it's just, they can just do that. It's just
when it came to uniform, my eldest went to a nursery that didn't require uniform, and so the whole idea of wearing uniform, and especially like dark green and grey and things, it was boring, and she was upset because she was a rainbow unicorn, as you know. And everything was rainbows and tutus, and still is now. But I think it makes it more special that she only gets to do it on the weekends now, actually. But she really struggled with the idea of uniform, so we actually bought her uniform at the beginning of the summer. And we spent we did probably 4 or 5 times getting her into her uniform. We tried out her peak. I like to run through everything with her anyway, just make sure she understands where everything is, because half the time she's not paying attention anyway. And also she has to wear an actual shirt. So understanding doing and undoing her top button, it's really hard. And at her school, the teachers aren't allowed to help.
No.
So there are things in place and processes in place that mean that teachers aren't actually allowed to help with quite a lot of stuff. And we found actually packing a spare couple of pairs of knickers and socks in her PE bag was really helpful at the beginning of term, because actually getting used to the idea that they had to ask to go to the toilet was a tough one. And they had a toilet in the classroom in reception. In year 1, the toilet was outside of the classroom. And so even at the beginning of the term for year 1, we had a couple of accidents where you know, it was just, well, I don't actually know which toilet I'm supposed to use, which was really fun. So it's not unusual that your child will come home in their PE kit of a day when they didn't have PE.
Yes, that is very true. And just not to make a big deal of that when they get home, doesn't matter.
No.
It's really common. And it's just like quite often they're just too busy and they just forget, because they're if you think of yourself, if you're starting a new social situation or you're starting a new job, all of that information, and they're for like 4 or 5, it's a lot to process. So it can just take time.
No, definitely. So I really love the whole food hall idea. I hadn't even thought about that, but they used to get really distracted at meal times at school, to the point where we actually had to ask some of the midday assistants to actually keep an eye on her while she was eating her food, just to make sure she did actually eat something, because she'd then come home absolutely starving. I still have to bring snacks in the car.
Well, they're always hungry after school. Honestly, it's like they've not eaten all day. They have. It's just that they've used so much more energy possibly than they did before. So have snacks at the ready. If you're lucky enough as a parent to be able to do the pickup, have something to give them, some high energy something, because they will be starving like wild animals when you pick them up.
It's very true.
I'm hungry. That's why the ice cream van always does really well if they're outside of school. So just have a box of raisins, whatever it is, something in your bag or your pocket that you can just go have that.
No, that's brilliant advice. Is there anything that we didn't, again, because we were in lockdown, we didn't get the home visit from the teacher. But in a lot of cases now you'll get the home visit. The teacher will come to your house, see how your child is within a home setting as well. They'll be able to see what their house is like, so that they can then relate more to the child, which is amazing. But I found that was actually a good time to raise some concerns I had. So originally Ursula was brought up for having speech and language difficulties. She's now having therapy for that, which is amazing. But we found that was a good time to highlight those concerns to the teacher. So but is there like anything else that we could do to sort of like, I don't know, help the teacher understand like nuances, difficulties?
I mean, those are your opportunities to have those conversations, and the teachers really do want to know that stuff. So if you know that your child has a particular something, whatever it is, then that is absolutely the time, if you're lucky enough to have those home visits, most of you will, to have those conversations. And if you haven't, then have a little note ready on the first day. Especially reception, hopefully in all the schools around here, it's a really good back and forth, so you'll have that relationship. And the more open you are with the teachers about anything, the easier it's going to be, kind of both sides. But also sometimes the homeschool visits don't go how you want. So to give you an example, we had a homeschool visit from my middly Holly, who is now nearly 22. She loves this story. So they came round. It wasn't our house, because we hadn't actually moved to Brentwood yet, so we were in a friend's house, and they knew that, so they knew it wasn't our place. Holly is autistic, and so she's also 29th of August, so I mean she just skated into that school year.
Oh God,
thank God, because otherwise she would have been outside, I mean in a box, someone take her anyway. So they came and they do all the things, and they tend to give them a puzzle, and they look at a book and all of that stuff. And Holly could already read, so that was like
Awesome.
Then they go for a puzzle, and she just looked at it and went, no. And that is one of the things that generally they do look for, is that, you know, can they follow the instructions, blah blah blah. And the teacher said, oh, can't she do puzzles yet? And Holly, not even me, but Holly, not quite 4 yet, said, I can do them, but what's the point, because you're going to make me put it back in the box. So I wanted to die, but actually it was really good because she showed who she was. So that's one of the main things I would say. When you have those home visits, don't over prep your child. Your teachers need to see what your child is really like, not what they like when you say to them, you better be good. As much as it's mortifying sometimes when they do, and she was, you know, pretty cocky about it. It's like, oh God, that's what they need to see. That they need to see what they're really like.
Yeah.
So that would be my main bit of advice, is don't sweat that too much. It's a good reconnaissance for the teachers, but actually it's good reconnaissance for you as well, to get a feel for who your teachers are going to be. They're going to have a massive impact on your children's life, so the more positive a relationship it is, the better.
Yeah,
definitely.
So I mean, our school's only really sort of just got back into that normal routine post COVID, because, you know, it's all been mad since then. And today we actually get to meet her new class teacher and see her new classroom, which we've never done before.
No,
didn't have the opportunity to do it before. So yeah, it's really weird actually finally experiencing normal school. Whereas up till now we've only ever really known COVID school, so it's very strange. And the really nice thing about the whole Montessori thing as well is my middle one is 3. She'll be starting school in September 24, but they started introducing uniform to nursery. We 100% took them up on that, because it saves all the
arguments, isn't it? This is what you're wearing. You're not going to wear, Holly had, it was always Holly, the FFD, which stood for the, you can probably guess what the first one was, something fairy dress, which she wore over every outfit for a good 18 months. I would say. It negates that. She couldn't wear it to school, had to wear a uniform.
That was the same with, that's the same with Indy at the moment, is every day is party dress day at the moment. But she can never but she can never decide which party dress to wear, because she's 3 and she's got that brain where decisions just aren't made. And so, you know, being able to have the school t-shirt and any leggings that she wants really does help.
Easy peasy.
And she's already, it's only been a week and she's already in this mindset, is t-shirt and leggings, so she's really happy with that. But
I've just thought 10%
but it really does help. And then but they're also introduced school bags. So now they don't just bring a bag and leave it, they have to take it home and bring it back every week, every day as well. So they're really starting to prep her for that. She can count up to 26 now. Recognize numbers, recognize numbers, and they're already trying to introduce writing her name, which is really exciting. So you know, she should be well on her way by the time she starts school, and then she'll be at the same school as us as well. So we've already started taking her on the school run.
So she's used to that journey already. I think
exactly.
It's easier kind of the second time round. Definitely, and because you know what to expect as well. So as a parent, you're not going to be anxious, because it is an anxious time for parents too, because it's such a big change. What was I going to say? Yes, so there is a lot of pressure on teachers, and it's not their fault, because the curriculum is something I could complain about for days, and it isn't the teacher's fault. So please bear that in mind. If you've not been within the school system yet, don't take it out on the teachers that your children have to do whatever, like the phonics and blah blah blah. It isn't your teacher's fault, it just has to be done. But what I would say is that lots of parents put pressure on themselves, and then not on purpose but inadvertently on their children, that they need to know their phonics, they need to know this, they need to do that before they start school. And some of them will, like I said, all of mine could read before they started school. It wasn't because I'm a teacher, it's just because they're all quite precocious and they wanted to. It's what it comes down to. But don't put yourself or them under any pressure. But what I would say out of everything is, they don't have to be able to write their name, but it's really handy if they can recognise their name. And just do it as a game, because they're going to have their peg with their name on it, and they're going to have all of their uniform, hopefully with your name on it, and their bag and their books and all of that. And if they can recognise their name, that is a godsend, because they will, and it'll make them feel really grown up too.
on that note, with the labelling uniform, I do actually have a code for a naming stamp.
Oh yeah,
from
amazing. They did
So,
not exist
no.
when I went to school.
So the stamps from Stamptastic are amazing. I use them for all three of the kids because obviously we have uniform and clothes to go home to nursery as well. I have a code that will be up on my Instagram until it runs out. So if you follow me on there, make sure you have a look, give it a go, because 100% recommend. They're amazing.
Label everything.
Yeah, absolutely everything.
You'll lose stuff. Also, just accept that.
Talking about losing things, I've been badgering Asta for the last week to find her sun hat. She's got a baseball cap. Been badgering her to find it. We even checked lost property, and couldn't find it anywhere. It wasn't at school. And then I took my Mac off the pegs this morning because it was drizzling as I dropped her off to school, and there it was. So yeah, check at home as well, guys. Because it's probably there. But the number of times I've had cardigans given back to me that have ended up in other people's bags too. Yeah, definitely. So I see you've selected some books here. So would you like to talk us through them quickly?
This one is not new at all.
No, I recognise it from when I started
school. Very old. I don't know, this will just make me feel old now. I mean, God rest Janet Allberg, she's been dead since I was a child. That's a very long time ago. I don't actually know what the date is. Yeah, it's super old, but this is genuinely still I think probably my favourite starting school book ever, for lots of reasons. One is that the Allbergs were ahead of their time, so it is a very diverse cast of children, and that's not been updated. It was always like that with their illustrations, and I love it because it takes children through the course of a school day, from beginning to end, and all of the fun stuff, and it really focuses on the positive. It doesn't focus on the fact that you might be feeling nervous. It kind of gives a nod to it, but it's all about the fun things that they're going to be able to learn and explore. And I love it. The illustrations are so gorgeous. The text is nice and chunky as well, which is quite good. It's just really good fun. So you can kind of dip in and out of it whenever you want to. So I love that one. The other one is newer, and I love it really, just a big baby. So this is called I Have to Start at School Today, and this is for someone who maybe is feeling a little bit more anxious. So it is a little girl, which is a bit of a pain. So if you've got a little boy, then they might not engage with it. But I think they would, personally. And this is her bear, who goes to school with her, basically. And it's got a happy ever after. She's very nervous about it. She talks to her big brother about it before she starts school, and she ends up, it's quite crazy. There's lots of crazy animals in it and general silliness, and by the end of it she has a jolly good time. So it's just a really gentle one that you'll probably end up reading it about 1,000 times, but it's got enough humor in it for you to be like, please don't make me read this again, please don't make me read this again. So there's lots out there. So I think I wouldn't push it too much, but if you know you've got a child who does get anxious, and lots of our children do, they always have done, but I think probably even more so now. A lot of it to do with COVID. I think it's going to take a long time before children aren't affected by that. Do you think the children that start in school now, they're all the COVID babies? Yeah. So unless they've been to nursery, they're used to being at home in quite a small circle, and that is not criticism at all. No. I think it's amazing if you can do that. It's wonderful, and they have such an amazing start. But it's just it's another big shift. So books are a great way to go, and obviously we sell them, but we've got Brentwood Library and we've got Shenfield Library, and I can't remember where it is at the moment, but it's not in its permanent building yet, but it exists as well. And they've always got those kind of books, and if they haven't got them, you can ask and they can get them in. I think books are really useful for that kind of thing, because it's just quite a gentle way of exploring things that maybe someone's feeling a little bit nervous about, and for you as well as a parent, because it kind of just talks you through the fact that it's all going to be okay. We all did it, we all survived it, it's going to be fine. It's just a big adjustment. And if you missed last week's podcast episode featuring Daisy Upton, 5 Minute Mum as well, I'd 100% recommend that book. I've already been looking over it with my middle one, and she's already started asking me questions, and actually my eldest has really enjoyed going through the book with her and sort of answering any questions as well, which is really nice. So
it's very funny because sometimes, you know, kids don't maybe take what their parents say as 100% truth. And so actually hearing it from her older sister is really nice. And us that really benefited from speaking to her older cousins who were already at school as well. So, you know, if you do have family and you have children who are slightly older within your village or network or whatever who are already at school, it's a great time to get them talking to your children as well, and allay any anxieties that they might have too. So I'd 100% recommend kids talking to kids as well, asking questions. What's your school like? What's your uniform like? What your friends like? What's after school club like? And things like that as well. So amazing. And I'm pretty sure that you can order in Daisy's book as well, can't you?
Absolutely. Is it print? We can get it. Yeah.
Yes. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me back.
Anytime.
Anytime
At all.
It wasn't a disaster.
It was brilliant. No, but seriously, thank you so much for coming back on again and joining me and, you know, helping my listeners.
You're very, very welcome. And just breathe through it, parents. Just breathe through it. Be fine.
Yes, it'll all be okay in the end.
If you enjoyed this episode of Mum's Work and Chaos, please make sure to subscribe on whatever podcasting channel you're listening on at the moment. Or if you'd like to get involved, feel free to email me at mumsworkandchaos@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at mumsworkandchaos. See you then.